Welcome to The Prize Inside, your favorite source for exploring the human potential through the stories of ordinary people achieving the extraordinary. These aren't just people exceeding physical limits. They're doing the impossible, and they aren't done yet. Are you ready to exceed your potential? Then join in now with your hosts, chiropractors Rochelle and Jeremy Myers and massage therapist Bunny.
Welcome, everyone, to The Prize Inside, where we learn about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The Prize Inside is brought to you by MyPeakDirect.com. MyPeakDirect.com is an online store that holistic doctors have deemed the products exceptional. Ever have a difficult time knowing the best supplement to take? Maybe you've heard a suggestion and are not sure what is a good high-quality brand. MyPeak Direct is an online store that not only sells top-quality holistic supplies from top-rated companies, but everything they suggest, holistic doctors have deemed great. MyPeak does not recommend anything that its doctors have not even tried or have not tried firsthand. So check out www.mypeakdirect.com. Dr. Rachel Myers and Amy Segerman offer 4 components to support you as you begin your journey toward lifelong transformation, one healthy habit at a time. Your coach will be with you every step of the way. Studies show that having a support system can help you get better results. It's why each client gets paired with a coach to guide them on the path to optimal health and well-being. Their coaches are there to empower and encourage you in real time. They know the journey you're about to embark on because they themselves have been on that same journey. So call 269-964-1441 and ask for Dr. Rachel or Amy to get started today. Test. All right, welcome everybody to The Prize Inside. Today we're talking about the next chiropractic principle, which is principle number 8. First, sorry about I've been doing one every 2 weeks. We took a vacation last week to the wonderful state of North Carolina. If you've ever been there, this is a shout out to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It was gorgeous. It's mid-April or early April, so the water wasn't exactly like warm enough to do much in the far as swimming. So my 11-year-old was pretty downtrodden about that. However, we found fishing, kite flying, and a bunch of putt. We had an absolute blast of just relaxation and listening to the ocean. It was just really well needed and very awesome as far as that goes, and got me recharged for all these different podcasts that I love doing. So hopefully it'll keep being more and more interesting to you. So I owe you guys one for end of last week. Anyway, so this is going back to our Monday 33 chiropractic principles, and I want to go through them. This one's called principle number 8. This is the function of intelligence. So the function of intelligence is to create force. That is the entire principle. The function of intelligence is to create force. So what I'd like to do is go through the ones we've gone through so far, kind of link those together. But first, here's a quote. There are 2 ways to live, as if nothing is a miracle, or as if everything is a miracle. And that was by Albert Einstein. So I want you to think about that as we go forward with this intelligence. The entire concept of it is to create force. Force is energy, right? So force is movement. Force is those functions. So when we look forward to this, let's remember that as we go forward. So remember, I'm going to do a recap. So principle 1 is called the major premise. A universal intelligence is in all matter and continually gives to it its all properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. Okay, so that defines the universal intelligence. Principle 2, the chiropractic meaning of life. The expression of this intelligence through matter is the chiropractic meaning of life. Okay, so that would be kind of the definition of what I call innate intelligence, or chiropractic calls innate intelligence. It's the body's intelligence that is part of that universal intelligence. Okay, the principle number 3, the union of intelligence and matter. Life is necessarily the union of intelligence and matter. So life becomes when we have this innate intelligence within us that's able to carry out the functions in the body. The triune of life. Life is a triunity having 3 necessary united factors, namely intelligence, force, and matter. Intelligence, energy, and matter would be a good way to put that. The perfection of the triune is principle 5. In order to have 100% life, there must be 100% intelligence, 100% force, 100% matter. Principle number 6, the principle of time. There is no process that does not require time. All right, and that adds to a lot of those things, and we went over those. Principle number 7, the amount of intelligence in matter. The amount of intelligence for any given amount of matter is 100% and is always proportional to its requirements. Basically saying that if in a perfectly functioning innate intelligence and human body, you have access to 100% of the innate intelligence within you, if there are no interferences. So that is pretty profound as you go. And then you'd add principle 8 at the end of that. The function of intelligence is to create force. So that's awesome. Force is also another word for energy. This one starts to bring in the idea of what we talked about with deductive logic. So deductive logic is the starting from a framework, starting from a premise that there is something bigger than us. So in the sense of, this is where intelligence is designed by your creator, by a God. These kind of things are something that we say that we come from a perfection, and our ultimate goal is to be as perfect as we can every day. Perfect innately as we can every day, and that is a constant struggle and a constant, I wouldn't say struggle, it's a constant journey. That's a better word. Journey, because I want to keep it as a positive note, because you're never going to be 100% perfect. One of my coaches back in the day said something so interesting. He said, I would like you to give 96%. Or in the 90 range of percent in this football game. And everybody's like, what? Everybody says 110%. You physically cannot give 110%. So by asking that, you're setting yourself up for failure. But what if you gave 80% in that game? What if you gave 90% in that game? Right? So a lot of times what he was doing is setting you up for success on the back end of saying, instead of 110%, which is an absolute failure, you can't do it, right, to giving you 100%, 102% is absolute failure, right? So think in that terms of health in general. Health is a journey. Is your body, if you took every nutritional piece of supplement, everything, correct, let's say you eat right, you exercise, you meditate, you pray, you have all these different things, but then, all of a sudden something happens health-wise. You would be completely enamored at that point. So, and what's so hard about that is that all of us have been in that history of the person that that has lived a really, really good, healthy lifestyle and died of a heart attack. Those things happen because sometimes we have to be careful, understanding that the journey is not to, it's the best way to describe it is you don't want to live preventative. You want to live growing. So there's only two parts. You can either be protecting, right? You're in two modes, either in your body, growth or protection. Those are the two. In protection, you're not really growing. You're just maintaining what you're doing. In growth, you're actually expanding what you're doing. And that's where changing your genes, changing all those things are. When you live, even if you live perfectly healthy, but you're living in the mindset of protection, a lot of times you're actually hurting yourself by saying, I'm going to work out because I don't want to have a heart attack. Well, how many people do we know that those kind of things happen? So, and that's in for a different day. I love that conversation. It changes a lot. It changes a lot of who we are and how we do things too. So the ultimate proof that you can look for Principle 8, which is back again, is the function of intelligence is to create force. So this innate intelligence within us creates force. Force is a function. Force is muscle movement. Force is seeing. Force is breathing. All those different things are innate intelligence is designed. A lot of times when we look at different things, we ultimately we see a lot of these intelligence design, innate intelligence within others. Okay, so we're going to go through that. The natural world is a great example. If I give you a picture of a plant, just a picture, photograph of a pretty plant growing, right? But you see it's just a little baby. A lot of times let's go, oh, that's nice. But what really catches your eye is if I did a slow motion video of that plant coming from a seed and kind of coming through the earth and raising up, and you can actually see the intelligent design, the innate intelligence, creating the force to create the growth. That's why a lot of times I see so much joy in pretty much every human I've ever experienced around watching a baby, watching this baby interact with its environment. Because it's such a fast track of growth that we don't see in a lot of times as an adult. You're actually watching this thing where this process go out beyond where we would ever think it would go in such a small time frame. In our office, we'll see an infant. A lot of times chiropractic's really good in a few different conditions for babies. General health is what we love to say. However, colic is one that is really good. Ear infections can be a very positive impact on there, getting your baby's spine checked. But watching these little babies, I had a good example. Her name was Ivy. Mom had been a chiropractic parent. She brought in every kid she's ever had. Now she's up to 4. But her second baby, Ivy, was almost immediately after birth was crying all the time, just constant. But Mom knew it wasn't the cry of hunger. Something else was going on. And she, you have this that is an innate connection from mom to baby. She's like, she seems uncomfortable. And so it's kind of cool because I have this video because my intern, who is now a chiropractor with me, he was videoing and I found the right vertebrae in there. And it's really the pressure you use on a baby like this is literally, there's nothing to it. They basically wiggle it into place and it is fascinating. Like if you find the right vertebrae, realign it where it's supposed to be. The baby does all the work, as parents find out, it's a very easy process on their kid. But anyway, so as I find this spot and just the mere presence of me touching it, she stops crying almost absolutely instantly and looks at me. And it was one of the neatest processes that I had ever seen. Like usually colic, they still are a little uncomfortable. This baby immediately knew, and she didn't feel colic. She was just uncomfortable. So when we did the adjustment, she came right back, never had an issue one again, for that issue at all. So, but what happens is like for me, you watch this little Ivy, we did that process, and then the next time I saw them, she's crawling around the floor, and just to watch the different development of their spine, they're growing, they're interacting, the senses are all coming in. And to me, this is a great example. Witnessing that on the outside makes you happy. That's why people garden. That's why people love hanging out with kids. That's why at our daycare we had so many grandmas, for my children that just love that interaction. These are callings of nature that we love to witness. One of the biggest problems is that when we look at this innate intelligence, we don't really look at the force, the function created by our own innate intelligence, because we're out, we're inside us looking out to the rest of the world. So a lot of times we won't see a lot of these innate expressions of ourselves. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today, as we go forward. I want to show you a way, like what we're going to do each week, a 1% improvement that we can do that can basically show us our innate intelligence to ourselves personally, because we won't, a lot of times as an individual, we won't pay attention to these innate intelligence. Like I've weighed 260 pounds, 5'11", not great, worked out all the time, but I never really understood or saw the innate dropping of the weight, right? So I kept looking for some way. Now I'm usually in the 220s, except for when I go on a North Carolina vacation. I got some work to do coming back, but usually, losing that weight, now I'm consistently at a better weight for me, even though I could do some other work, right? But as we go, you don't get to see the innate intelligence of that. Sometimes you get to feel it. You'll feel the innate expression by feeling better, lighter on your feet, just things like that. But a lot of times we won't see it. But there is one spot in our world that we get to do that. And that, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, is pooping. All right, you heard it here first. We're going to talk a little bit about pooping, okay? So a lot of medical doctors in general will, because of their knowledge through schooling, will actually check the toilet after they've been on to see what it looks like. Isn't that crazy? I know you're all going to get disgusted. However, the knowledge you can have in understanding what a good bowel movement looks like for you is huge. Some of you don't have a bowel movement for a week. That's really bad. But your innate intelligence, some of you never have what they call a solid bowel movement. Some of you have so solid of a bowel movement, it hurts to do it, right? And these are all indicators that your innate intelligence is not functioning as it should in your gut. So what we want to do is try in this podcast to help you do this a little bit better. So what our first movement is, so this is our 1% improvement for this week. Our 1% is to start checking out where you're at. See where you're at first. So we want to see, all right, am I not going every day? You should go about 2 to 3 times in my guesstimation. Solid pooping. Okay, so a good solid poop, not diarrhea, not constipation, those kind of things. So you want it to be a good color, like a brown color, right? So you want all those things to be indicators in there. All right, excuse me. Sorry, my computer. Okay, there we go. So we want those things to happen. Okay, so this brown color. All right, so those are things. So 2 and 3 times a day. Some of you will be like, oh my gosh, I can't even fathom that. So a lot of times that is where we want to be. So if you're not there, we're going to try some different things. Okay. So there's a lot of gut bacteria, gut microbiome issues that go beyond this podcast, but some places we can start. Okay. So my first one is increasing water intake. Water intake is so big that if you could start doing that, many of my constipation problems that I see are people lacking in water because we put so much other things in. So that's a tough thing when you're filling your body worth of, think of this. Think of, let's say you have 5 medications you got to take, right? So you have 5 medications. Think of that. Anything like that is like putting Kool-Aid into water. Okay, so our body's predominantly made of water. So you're going to put these other things in. So it's like pouring the Kool-Aid pouches in. The more and more Kool-Aid pouches we put in, what happens to the water? The Kool-Aid gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And eventually, you could probably make a syrup if you put enough of these other things other than water in. And that's like pops. Those are, food. And so if you're not taking adequate water in, you're creating like a sludge that never actually ends up getting out. So that's one reason, increasing your water up to, and I always tell people, don't ask me how much. You know how much. You need to be going, number one, peeing on a regular basis. Not if you're not doing that, then you haven't taken enough, right? So those are that's a big concept that try to help the number 2 part of this aspect. The other one is if your gut is not so crazy that you need a possibly a holistic doctor to, reevaluate what you're doing. A lot of times a good probiotic will help this cause. A really good one. One day we'll go into the different types. Some really solid. I probably would recommend getting probiotic. There's so many different brands right now, but I'd probably go to your natural health food store and start taking a look. A lot of times having a prebiotic possibly in there. Make sure that the probiotic you choose has fiber in it. Okay, that fiber is not for you. It's for the life of the gut bacteria in there. Many ones out there. We haven't even touched the surface of gut bacteria. It's going to be fantastic when we learn more and more about that. So that could be a good spot. Sometimes some yogurts are good, but because the sugar content of a lot of these things, sometimes it takes away the process in those different yogurts. But the other one that I love, that I tell everyone to do, is start to do chicken broth, beef broth, vegetable broth, whichever one you want to do. Create your own and start drinking it as a side to your meals. A lot of times when you give your body something that it does not have to digest, but it has tons of vitamins and minerals in it, you're helping that gut bacteria reform and restore. And a lot of people do not do that. And because of that, you eat food, but you're not getting the nutrients you need out of it. And that leads to a ton of gut bacteria problems. So that one. And then also remember this, because I'm a huge fan of this, fermented foods. Fermented foods are probably, well, I know this. Most probiotics do not have enough as much probiotic in it as fermented foods do. So fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, these type of fermented products can have a huge amount of probiotic activity. Sometimes, if your gut bacteria is messed up enough, you're going to have a little gut discomfort, but it's not a bad thing. A lot of people will stay away from it like something's wrong. Sometimes you have to have that. And then, once all these pieces of the recipe are in your body, we can start tracking how you're pooping. So all of a sudden, does your poop change in that process? Do we need to add something else? But it's something you can monitor. That's innate intelligence at its finest. So think about that. Your innate intelligence is working to create this force or create the function of your gut bacteria. you're helping it along by giving it all these things it needs. That's it. That's all you're doing. And when you do that, the function starts to come back, and you can actually watch this happen in real time. And all you got to do is look in your toilet before you flush. Isn't that fantastic? So some of you are like so disgusted right now, but that's okay, because we have to do this, right? We have to figure out a way that we can enjoy the innate intelligence of our body prior, and not just experience it with the little ones and the children and the plants and the gardening. Those are all good, but what about me, right? This is about that, trying to do that. So your 1% improvement this week, check out your gut bacteria by checking out your stool. And my friends, that will be it for this podcast, but I hope you appreciate it. And if you have any questions, I will be able to get soon. We'll have these all on a website and getting them out there. So it was great to talk to you again after our vacation in North Carolina, and have a good one. Thanks.
Don't think for a second that this episode has reached its full potential, because we have plenty more for you on Myers-Chiropractic.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook and subscribe to the show on your preferred podcast listening service so you don't miss a minute of real stories, real people, and real results. We look forward to exploring the human potential with you next time, right here on The Prize Inside.